Gas up the Jeep, it's good to be free. Load up the pans and fishing poles. The highway is long, the wheels turning round. Pack up the cook stove and the bowls. Arlo and I, we hit the open road. Arlo and I are on the road.
Hey everybody, Arlo and I are out and about again today, and we just came out to find some interesting wild edibles. Now what we're looking for today is this right here. Now this is called bracken or Bracken Fern, and you can eat the little, well, they don't really come like fiddleheads, but they look more like a sort of like a bird's claw, and they look like this. There's another one right here. Now bracken fern is a delicious wild edible, and when you cook it up, it tastes a lot like asparagus, and people have been eating bracken fern for thousands of years. But here's the thing, it's been known to be highly carcinogenic, and you can't eat this raw. But the good news is that when you cook it, when you boil it in water, the compounds that make this a carcinogenic plant are washed away. So you can, in essence, make a toxic wild plant into a very edible plant. Now, I'm not recommending that you eat this, but just know that people have been eating bracken fern all over the world for thousands and thousands of years. It's very popular in Asia, and there you can find many Asian type recipes using this ingredient. And well, it's one of those plants that is all over the place, and not just all over right here, but all over the country, all over the world. So like I said, I'm not recommending that you eat this, but if you do happen to eat it, I would eat it sparingly. I wouldn't eat like a giant plate every day, but just know that if you do eat it, do not eat it raw, and that make sure that it's fully cooked in water. Boil it in water. You know, even cold water, soaking it in cold water removes some of the compounds that make this carcinogenic. But you can soak it in water to wash it, boil it until it's tender, and then shock it in cold water again, and then you can be pretty sure that most of the carcinogenic compounds in this fern will be removed, but not everything, I'm sure. So I would definitely use caution when eating this plant. I would also maybe just eat it occasionally. So today Arlo and I are going to gather some bracken ferns, and we're going to make a little meal out of it. So Arlo and I are just going to kind of wander along this little creeky drainage area and pick some bracken ferns as we go along. Slippery are. This is kind of a pretty little cut in the rock here with a little pool of water down below. Well, there are some Bracken ferns here on the side of the little water here. Yeah. It appears that up here, where the field is a little bit drier, kind of in between the wet and the dry, is where the bracken seem to want to be. So I'm seeing quite a few more right up in this area. Here's one right here. Got So when you find ferns at this point, they're actually open too much and you don't want to eat them at this stage. Here's one that's even a little less than that, but we're still looking for more of the ferns to be a little bit less mature. Here is one right here. That should be nice. See how it snaps. It's nice and tender. We can get a few of these in this area. We just want to gather them while they're young like this before they unfurl completely. A little bit like this is okay. The thing is, not only do they taste like asparagus, but I think they grow as fast as asparagus. They're a very fast growing plant. Here is a pretty one right here with that sort of stereotypical sort of fiddle shape. When they're young, when they're coming out of the ground, they do have that fiddle shape before they start to open up and become more like this, more like a, I don't know, a bird's foot kind of shape. So this is a nice one here. I'm going to grab that. If we can find more like this, this will be perfect. It's interesting. Not only do they kind of taste like asparagus, but they kind of have sort of an asparagus-y, kind of a mushroomy kind of aroma too. I guess it's sort of a forest floor kind of aroma. Now in this area of the forest, it's very moist. We have kind of a little creeky kind of area running through here, a little drainage, and they seem to, or the bracken seems to be kind of little groups underneath these big fir trees here. I'm standing under a big fir tree right here. And the bracken seems to be under these trees in the shady areas here. And look at all of the wild strawberries that are out here. Here's one that's in bloom right here. Look at this. This is going to be a great area for me to come back and pick some strawberries. So I have a nice little handful of these bracken ferns. There's Arlo. My goal really isn't to make a giant meal out of these, but to gather just a handful like this and cook them up, and to show a fun way to cook them. So there is our little handful of bracken fern fronds that we are going to cook up. Alright, so I have my small handful of bracken ferns here, and I was thinking, well, since they're very similar tasting to asparagus, I was going to cook them in the traditional French way and serve them with a Hollandaise sauce. So I'm going to make a Hollandaise sauce, and I'm going to boil these up, and shouldn't take very long. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to get these Bracken Ferns cooked. Now, like I said, you can't eat these raw. They're very carcinogenic, but by boiling them thoroughly, it does take the carcinogenic compound out of it. Well, mostly, not all of it, and it is safe to eat at that point. So that's what we're going to do. Alright, so I've got my pot, I fill it with water. I'm going to bring that up to a boil. It's really important to make sure you have water in these little thin aluminum pots before you put them on your camp stove, otherwise it'll burn right through the bottom of the pot. So really what we're going to do is we're going to bring our water up to a boil, and then I'm going to throw my fiddleheads in there, and then we're going to cook them really good until they're tender, and then I'm going to put those aside, and then I'm going to get my butter melted, and then I'm going to start making our Hollandaise. Alright, our water is starting to come up to a boil. I'm going to add a little bit of salt to our pot. And I'm going to throw in our Bracken Ferns. I did rinse those off. And while those are cooking, I'll show you what we have for our Hollandaise. So I have one egg, which we're only going to use the yolk. I have some butter, some salt, a little chiltepine, and some white wine here. And that's it. It's a real simple sauce to make, although it can be tricky. These fiddleheads are not going to take long, but we do want to make sure that they're fully cooked. Right, our ferns look really nice, so I'm going to take those out. In our bowl right here. Then I'm going to take our boiling water and I'm going to set that aside, and I'm going to put our other pan on here so we can get our butter melting. Okay. Now we just want to melt our butter. Now you'll probably see in a lot of recipes that people use clarified butter to make the Hollandaise, and that's the traditional way of doing it. But I prefer to use whole butter because I really like the salty sort of milk solids that are in there. I think that adds a nice flavor to it. Also, the water that is in the whole butter that comes out. When I'm making a big batch of Hollandaise, I like to dip down into that water and adjust the consistency of the sauce while I'm making it. That should be good. This one thing we don't want to do is to brown the butter, because this is sort of light sauce. So I'm going to put the butter aside now, and I'm going to bring my boiling water back up onto the stove here, and I'm going to turn my heat down. I just want it to kind of be lightly simmering water. Okay, now for the fun part. Now I've taken that egg and I've separated the yolk from the white here. Actually, I need to turn my water down a little more. We just want it just lightly simmering. And I have it in this enamel bowl. This is a metal bowl. And I'm going to set that right on top of that pot there. And then we're going to slowly start warming up this egg yolk and whisking it. I'm going to add just a little splash of this white wine, just like that. And we're going to just start stirring our egg yolks just like this, and that water bath is going to help us get the eggs to a nice lemony sort of frothy color without actually cooking them and making them into scrambled eggs. So we want to start become this sort of lemony, frothy consistency here, and then we're going to start drizzling in our butter. Just a little bit at a time. Now the eggs will now start to form an emulsion with that butter, and once you get that first little bit in, you can start adding it in a little bit faster. All right, that's it. Look at that. That nice creamy consistency here. Now we're going to adjust the seasoning here with a little bit of salt, and then I'm going to put in one of my chiltepin peppers. Put that in there, and just mix that around like that. And there's our simple Hollandaise. A little bit of our Hollandaise over our ferns, just like that. Look at that. Oh man, that looks delicious. Well, there it is. Our beautiful Bracken Fern and Hollandaise sauce. Let's try it out. Now the thing is, it really does taste like asparagus. Look at it there. So it lends itself perfectly for a Hollandaise sauce. And the spiciness of this Hollandaise sauce even kicks it up even more. That is really good. It tastes really light and simple, but rich and decadent at the same time. Look at that. If I were to serve the stems of this without the tops of it, I don't think that anybody would even be able to tell that it wasn't asparagus. Tastes just like asparagus. And Hollandaise is really good and relatively easy to make. Don't be intimidated by Hollandaise. It's really not that difficult to make. Just takes a little bit of practice, and you'll have it down pat. And as far as the Bracken Ferns go, I think as a special treat every once in a while you're camping, I think that's just fine. Anyway, that was delicious. Man, Hollandaise out in the woods. If you like this video, please like, please subscribe. That always helps us a lot, and we'll see you in the next one. All right, bye-bye. I don't know if you can hear the birds out there, but this is so peaceful. It's times like these where I really feel fortunate. I get to spend many days out in the woods with my dog and have a beautiful wife at home that's okay with me going out and spending time with my dog, and I love her for that. And I even have the birds singing for me.
Gas up the Jeep, it's fun to be free. Load up the pans and fishing poles. Arlo and I, we hit the open road. Arlo and I on the road.